I mean,
Video,
naturally,
audio?
with us two good-looking men, my thoughts are we go video.
That's what I'm thinking. Nothing's more attractive than bags under the eyes and curly, sticky baby spit hair.
He spit hair, bro. Hey, I'm
Yeah,
trying here. I got my beard all gemmed out right now, just trying to make sure it doesn't look too messed up, you know.
that's too funny.
So
I
yeah,
put my kid on my
have hair.
shoulders and she won't sit up straight because she's like, oh, I don't have to. So she'll just hunker on my head and she's like slobbering in my hair. And then she's like, so I get this nice, cool hairdo.
Oh,
I'm like, hey, thanks, kiddo. Like, hopefully mom likes that because it's looking rough.
it's looking rough.
All right. On that note, I think we'll keep that. We'll get started here. So, hey, everybody. This is a
Yeah,
podcast without a name yet. I've got my friend Sean Hatcher from. Are you in Fresno or Clovis? It's kind of the same, but
kind of the same, but we're in Clovis technically.
okay, cool. Yeah. So it's just like that touch above Fresno. I got you. So Sean's in Clovis, and
Yeah,
I'm
just the
in
touch above, bro.
Corvallis, Oregon. So with this podcast, the goal of this podcast is I want to educate on things that I've learned about through my 9 years of college. I've had a ton of jobs in a bunch of different industries, worked in hunting, logging, construction, done a lot. So I want to educate people and I want to inspire people to live healthier lives through education. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing with this podcast. We're going to have different hosts, different people, different folks. So Sean is on because he is a fitness expert, we'll call you. You're definitely not a novice. And we're going to talk to Sean. Sean is going to help introduce me. And the reason I chose Sean is he's one of those people that, well, you could answer this, Sean. Do you know any strangers? Have you ever met a stranger? Because I don't think you have, but yeah, be honest.
So that's funny because I've never met a stranger, and
Yeah.
low key at my church, if we have like a homeless dude walk in or
Yep.
someone who's brand new, my pastor will be like, "Yo, Hatch,
Yep.
go say hi and sit next to him."
Yeah, you're the guy.
And I'm like, "Cool,
Yeah.
that's
See,
that's me." Yeah,
we're polar opposites there because I'd be like, oh, I notice I might wave, but I'm not going to go and initiate a conversation. So I feel like you're going to be a great person to introduce me and get me talking more. I don't like to be long winded, I like to be a little quieter. So why don't we get started? We'll go, Sean, you just answer these first, and then I'll go after you. So the first question is, who are you? What's your job and your story of how you got to be in that job? Kind of how you got to be here in life, and then kind of why you're on this podcast. So, specifically, why I'm choosing you to represent someone in the fitness industry. Some ideas you could talk about your hometown, maybe sports you liked, relationship with your parents. You have a brother, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
several.
so you could talk about any of those things. Just kind of give me a 2-3 minute elevator speech of what makes Sean Hatcher Sean Hatcher. Let's do it.
So we call this the BLUF, BLUF, the bottom line up front. It's a military thing. So whenever you send out an email, you include a BLUF. So you can read the BLUF, it's 3 to 5 sentences, and you'll know what the rest of the email is about. But the most important the most important information is condensed down to 3 to 5 sentences right in the beginning, so you know exactly what you're diving into.
Perfect.
So it's reminding me of the BLUF. So, who am I? My name is Sean Hatcher. I'm an exercise physiologist and strength and performance coach. I work with the United States Air Force and I also run my own business, Hatcher Fitness, online, where I help people from all walks of life, whether it's losing weight to performance or strictly strength gains. I have programs that pretty much help individuals achieve their goals using research-backed methods and not just some BS stuff that you see on Instagram, which is probably 95% of the content on Instagram. I came into fitness. I had an older brother who had a garage gym, so I was introduced to the weights at a very young age. In elementary school, I started actually weightlifting, probably around the 4th, 5th grade. I've naturally been a stronger guy, kind of a bigger guy my whole life. So that was the first introduction. And then, of course, high school, junior high, wrestling, football PE, which was just a bunch of squats, and the whole, ass to grass thing was really big back then. Fast forward a few years and several different jobs and some run-ins with some law enforcement officers. And I found myself in my mid-30s looking at a different career path. And it just so happened that those run-ins with the law enforcement led to about 8.5 months in county jail. So it's nothing too major. It was cultivation of marijuana, but in 2006 and 2007, this was still not the best idea. So needless to say, I ended up in county jail. That saved my life. I went into county jail with a pretty serious opiate addiction, which I don't think a lot of people actually know about. Literally popping pills like they were Tic Tacs. And in county jail, they do not give you anything but Tylenol or Advil. So that opiate addiction came to a grinding halt very quickly. My bunkie got me back into fitness, running stairs, doing push-ups, pull-ups, using the chin-up bar, things like that. So I get out of county jail. I have this love for fitness. I start with some odd-end jobs and then realize, I want to be in healthcare. I want to be someone who actually helps other guys change their lives. So initially I went into nursing, knocked out all the prerequisites for nursing during my associates. Then that got me to Fresno State, where I was introduced to kinesiology. And the idea was get into kines because it wasn't impacted, transfer to the nursing program, and then deuces kinesiology, hello nursing. Well, I fell in love with kinesiology naturally. And then I decided to go into the grad program. The grad program, which is a master's in kinesiology, the exercise science option, was what hospitals were looking for individuals who wanted to work in a cardiac rehabilitation unit. It was just a fancy way of saying programming exercises for people who had heart conditions, heart attacks, strokes, things of that nature. During my master's program, I had the opportunity to teach some biomechanics lab classes, as well as guest lecture in some exercise physiology classes with Dr. Anderson. That experience literally changed my life. I fell in love with teaching. I've always been someone who's very talkative. I'm going to smoke this 3 minutes probably. Should have put a timer out. But that interaction with students and helping people have that aha moment, and then just kind of giving life advice, after that, I was like, okay, I want to become a professor. So I finished my master's. I started looking at different PhD programs. But during the time, obviously, COVID happened. Some things shifted in our country, and I just wasn't down with the vaccine that was required to, in essence, be a teacher. So that led me to start my own business. And at that time, in my master's program, I had a few jobs, one of which was with a company called Pinnacle Systems, working as an exercise physiologist with Fresno Fire and Clovis PD. Working with first responders opened up a few more doors to where Dr. Gilbert, who was our graduate director, reached out and said, hey, I have an opportunity with a young group of Air Force cadets in the ROTC program. They need someone who is an expert in strength and conditioning. Out of all of our grad students, you are the guy that lifts heavy things. So I showed up, and then that opportunity changed my life and opened so many doors. And to fast forward, so we're not here forever, pretty much jumped into the online sector, quickly realized most people don't care about strength and performance work. Most people just want to look better naked and get their wife's or their husband's attention. And for most guys, they just want a little more action in the bedroom, to be very blunt. So then I'm working with these Air Force guys, and now I'm writing the weight loss programs because I got to pay the bills. And I started to notice a trend with all the guys. And this was men struggling with vices, alcohol, drugs, pornography, whatever it happened to be. And to be honest, you will never fix the exterior until you fix what's going on inside. Most of these dudes struggled with relationships with food, relationships with alcohol, which, if you can't control what you put into your body, you're never going to get the performance that you're looking for. That transitioned, and I ended up using some of my life experiences to help these guys overcome their PTSD, get in shape, lose the weight they gained during deployments, and really realign themselves with their faith in the purpose of their creation. And that's what I do today. So I tell people I'm a strength and performance coach, but the reality is I pull men out of the dark before they kill themselves.
Yeah, I think that is a fantastic 3-minute summary of what it is that kind of is making you tick. I think that's great. So, in summary, your job is you're a strength and conditioning coach, kind of like lifestyle, maybe a little bit of life coaching with an emphasis or like a specialty in that strength and conditioning. Is that pretty close?
That's pretty close, man. So I like to say a strong foundation of fitness because that's what I love. And then throughout the course of my life, like 2018, I almost died of a viral infection. Ended up in the hospital for 9 days on IV antibiotics, 108-degree fever, a little bit of brain damage from the high fever, which I developed a stutter for about a year and a half. And then in 2020, I was in a fatality motorcycle accident where I was the only person who walked away from that accident. And I got some really severe PTSD after that, spiraled downward, started smoking a lot of weed, eating gummy bears all day, playing video games. Dude, there came a point in time, like I didn't leave my bedroom for 3 days and I was literally like peeing in bottles. Like it got really, really dark.
Yeah.
But then one day I just decided like I have the knowledge and the education, like I know what I need to do to at least give myself a fighting chance. And that was pretty much January 1st, 2022. Yeah. And the accident was May 20th, 2020. So it took about 18, 20 months for me to get to a point of where I was like, hey, I need to get back up. So then I just documented all of that. And then when I started working with these guys that were struggling with PTSD, I was like, hey, this is what worked for me. Perhaps it'll work for you. And sure as heck, it worked for them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So it sounds like you are focusing on, hey, I've been there. I've walked the path that you're on. Not only have I walked this path, I'm going to help you on this path. I'm going to get in the trenches with you and we're going to get out together. So I think that's awesome. So now I'm going to introduce who I am, my job, my story, how I got here on this podcast. So I'm Stefan Mengoni. I am a third-year PhD candidate. So if you don't know, probably don't care. PhD candidate means that you passed your oral exams. So now I can start my dissertation. It's like the hardest test within the PhD program, so pass that. It's kind of cool. My job is I'm a PhD student full-time. I am a full-time husband, a full-time dad, and a full-time outdoor enthusiast. That one gets pretty part-time as the other ones take over. So my job right now is my wife tasked me with finishing my PhD, doing as well as possible. So when I get out, I can get the job, so she can be a stay-at-home mom, and then we're going to kind of switch roles of the provider of the income role. So my story, as a kid, I was very active. My dad was always in his free time hunting, scouting, looking for shed antlers, and for whatever reason, I was just with him always, no matter what. There's pictures of him and I when I could barely walk, and I'm in this giant snowsuit, like the Michelin Man, and I'm on his shoulders, and I could barely walk. One of my first memories is my dad and I were in the snow, just out looking for deer, and I was like, Dad, I'm tired. I was like 3 or 4. I was like, can I slide down this hill? And he was like, well, yeah, that's where we're going, so that's fine. And I sat on my butt and I slid. And after couple seconds of going down this hill, there's trees, and my dad starts running down the hill. He's like, if this kid hits this tree, I'm gonna be in big trouble when I get home to Mom. So I was just always with my dad, always Dad's little buddy when it came to being outside. That's just the way it was for me. Again, very active. I did all the sports my little 100-kid K-8 school offered. Not many sports, did them all. Went to a small high school, did a bunch of sports there, was always really active. I actually thought I was going to go and try to be a doctor or physical therapist. And as I was volunteering at PT clinics, I realized I'm not interested in everybody's sob stories. And that's super harsh, and I'm getting real big nods from Sean right now in the video. It's just, I am not the person that's going to motivate every single person of, oh, woe is me, my life's so hard, my life is over. I'm the person that's like, oh, let's go do something. Let's do something about it. I'm not going to hold your hand and tell you how sorry I feel for you. I want to encourage you to, hey, this sucks. Let's make it better. So I knew after a few different physical therapy clinics that was not going to be for me. I just emotionally, I'm not the person to just take on everybody's sorrows and just internalize that and then build them up. Um, that's not me. Some people are like that, and I'm not like that. I actually failed getting into medical school, so that was cool. I can say I failed that. Now, that's the way it is. Some people are good enough, some people aren't. That's fine. I went on to get a master's at Fresno State in exercise science as a way of building my resume to reapply to medical school. And I taught the same biomechanics class that Sean taught. I actually took your spot, Sean. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah, it was you and Zach.
Dude, I did not know that.
Yeah, so you and Zach had the spots, right? And then I don't think I like pushed you out, but Janelle was like, "Oh, this new student's trying to come in, and we're trying to, get the new people some experience." And Janelle gave me your spot, so Zach and I taught together. And just like Sean, when I was in the classroom, I was just so excited to try to help people understand fundamental things, because to me, it's so fulfilling when somebody's struggling to understand, and then when that light bulb goes off and it clicks, it's so rewarding of like, I helped you get there. Now you know. Now you can go and apply it, and you can grow from there. And it's cool for me to be able to help someone with just one little piece, and then they can just, the sky's the limit. So that's definitely my passion. Because of that, I went on to pursue a PhD. I'm in my third year. I'm now studying ACL injuries, so that'll probably come up in later podcasts. Don't really need to talk about it now. My hometown, small town, retirement community. I talked about playing all the sports. My parents are married, still married, have been married for about 30 years. Dad worked 40 hours a week, drove 2 hours every day, so he was gone 10 hours a day. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She's just very kind, caring, and taught me to be those things. I totally fail compared to her because she's got much more compassion than I do. I have no problem saying no, I'm not doing that, and she will basically work herself to the bone to help others, and I'm not as good as her when it comes to that. I've got two little brothers. I'm the big brother. I am. Sean wants me to talk about the impact my dad had on me. My dad is now my best friend, well, aside from my wife. Growing up, he was the hardest on me, hands down. I was the oldest, I was the biggest, I was the strongest, I was also the dumbest when it came to school. So imagine that. I'm the dumb one, and I'm getting a full ride for a PhD, so how's that? So he was always so hard on me, and to the point where our relationship really struggled when I was in high school. I wrestled. He was a really good high school wrestler. We were similar weight, and he would just beat the snot out of me every day and be like, "You need to be better." And everybody on the team would just let us have our space, and would just like, those two were just gonna fight every day, and that's what we did for like a year. And whatever, we didn't talk about it. We just like, all of our aggression came out wrestling. We didn't like punch each other, but it wasn't exactly like friendly wrestling. We would bruise each other and bop each other's noses and stuff, and that's just the way it went. Now we're best friends because he kind of realized I'm not going to be a certain way, and I've accepted the way that he is. So the certain way that he is he's pretty standoffish, not really loving, not really affectionate, but he shows those things a different way. So like, he raised me in the Catholic Church with my mom, encouraged me to really follow out my faith, provided me a free bachelor's degree, like always let me live at home. We never had any worries like financially, food. So those are things that I had to recognize myself. And then like, oh, my dad did all these things. That's great. But he didn't talk about it. He was just like, he did some things that he knew. He's just not the emotional. My mom was the emotional one. So kind of give and take there. My dad was definitely there, but just not there of like, hey, how was your day? I love you so much. Where my mom was like, hey, you did awesome, or how you feeling today? My dad was not that, so polar opposites, but together the two of them made me. So blame them if it's good or bad, I guess. I am married. My wife and I have been together for I was 19 for 8 years. We have a daughter, Cassie Ray. She's 9 months old Friday. Um, my wife's my best friend above my dad, and like he knows it's not a big deal. But my wife and I just try to do everything we can together. We try to support and love each other as best we can, and she's the one that stuck with me through all this, so pretty fortunate there. Now that I'm done talking about myself, Sean, we'll go to the next question. I want to know your hobbies and interests outside of fitness and like how those relate to fitness. Like how do you use your outside things to motivate you in your everyday life? That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Okay. So outside things motivate my everyday life. So my life today is very much fitness oriented.
Of course, naturally.
You know, things that outside influences that help me get here. So like I actually had an opposite experience with my family. My parents went through a horrible divorce when I was like 14. And their marriage started falling apart when I was 10. And so I look at how my parents reacted to situations in life. Um, Very emotionally charged, especially during their divorce. For example, like I had to teach myself how to shave. Like nobody took me to go buy a razor, to go buy shaving cream. Like I did all that on my own. Like asked my first girl out on my own.
Me too,
All the
man.
parts my dad. Yeah.
Yeah, so like you say that, my dad was present. He was there every day, but he didn't teach me those things. So it's kind of interesting how my dad was physically there every day, and he didn't teach me those things either. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of an interesting
Yeah.
thought. Anyways, I'm
No, it
sorry.
is because
Please continue.
no, not at all, man. Don't be sorry, dude. That's it's a good perspective because a lot of times in life, like I focus on what I believe the shortcomings of my parents were and how that affected my life. Which is kind of why I asked the impact of your dad, because you seem very well put together for your age. And I've
Thanks.
noticed that I'm just being honest. I've
Yeah,
noticed
thanks.
that people who get married earlier in life, and I'm not trying to make this a sob story, but there's definitely regret in my life for not pursuing a relationship with a woman earlier in my life. Because I'll never be that 40, like I turned 43 last week, right? I'm not married, no kids, I'm single. Like I'll never be that father who's 45 teaching his 20-year-old how to lift.
Yeah.
And to me that one hurts because
Yeah, I
I
bet.
love fitness so much, right?
Yeah, you want to share it. I get
So
that.
this has been on my mind a lot, but I would say like some of the external influences really came down to seeing how poorly my dad treated my mom, and that really it pushed me into a very dark spot where I struggled with drugs and alcohol and different addictions in my 20s. And it wasn't until I was 36 years old that I acted holding my friend's kid. Like I just happened to be in the hospital when his daughter was born. So
Hmm.
I'm literally like outside, like, in the hallway because they're
Yep.
like, we only can have so many people in here.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, I don't want to be in here for this. That's not my wife, you know?
Yeah.
And my buddy was like, no, you can get down. And his wife was like, no, he
Yeah.
can't. And so I'm like, because he's like my best friend, like a
Yeah.
brother, right? So I'm on the outside and I come back in, baby's all cleaned up. And I'm literally the like fifth person to hold my niece, including the doctors and nurses. Like
Hmm.
grandma wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
So I'm holding this little baby and she was a little underweight. And so she
Hmm.
literally fit from my wrist bone to
Yep.
my elbow,
Yep.
inside my forearm. So I'm holding this little kid and it just hit me that I wanted to be a father one day.
Yeah.
And it's right around the age of 36 where I really started to dive into like, how can I, even though I feel like I did pretty well in life, all things considered, like, how can I take what I've gone through and use it to create better men?
Yeah.
If I can somehow time collapse, if I meet a 20-year-old and I can time collapse everything I've learned and pass that to him so he doesn't wait till he's 36 to figure out who wants a family, like, those were really big external factors that influenced me. Even lifting weights, dude. My dad was physically abusive to us, and in some pretty fucking, sorry, didn't mean to cuss, in some pretty gnarly ways, dude. And that led me at, I think I was in junior high, man. Mind you, I was a fat kid too. Like, I ballooned up during my parents' divorce and stuff like that. So, I'm going into the 8th grade weighing 255 pounds with a 42-inch waist.
Man.
Not cool in the
Yeah.
8th grade. Wrestling coach loved me.
Oh, I'm
Wrestling
sure.
coach and shot put coach, they
Yep.
noticed me on day one. They're like, where are you going? Track and field. But literally, like, I started lifting weights so he couldn't push me around anymore. And that's very much an external factor that created like the principles and the ethos that I live by today, which I do believe men should be strong. I do believe we are protectors and we were born to serve. Now I'll get emotional, but I'm like, bro, try to touch one of my nieces and see what happens.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
exactly.
you know what I mean? Like, there's a reason I'm this size, and it kind of sucks to say, like, at 43, you still feel like, man, somebody might try to hurt you, but that's a huge external influence, dude. Was just not having the best father figure,
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I
think I can give you on that question, bro.
if I could kind of summarize that, because I think you took it in a way that I'm going to circle it back. Watch this. So in all my years
Yeah.
of trying to understand stuff that was above my head, I got really good at summarizing things. So we'll see how well I do. So it sounds like you're taking some external negatives from your life and you're channeling it into positivity. So you're channeling it into, I can build my body, and through building my body up stronger, more powerful, I have internal strength. And now you want to promote that so other people have that internal strength to overcome any hardships in their life. Is that a pretty good summary of what you just said?
Yeah. That's a good summary, man.
That's why Oregon State pays me the big bucks to to teach undergraduate biomechanics. So for me, and I recognize we definitely had different lives growing up. For me, what makes me tick is being outside. If I'm outside, things are just better. So we live in Oregon and it rains all the time. And rain or shine, I'm outside. Doesn't matter. I get 4 miles a day outside. I'm always outside. So my hobbies are walking, hiking, backpacking, rifle hunting, bow hunting, fishing, and I want to be able to do those things for as long as possible till I'm like 80, maybe longer if I can. And I also want to be able to do those things with Cassie and any other future kids I have, with Bridget, with my dog. My dog's my best buddy. She's always ready to go outside, even if it's pouring rain. So for me, I want to do those hobbies. I want to see the outside world so badly that I try to leverage that in my everyday life, in my nutrition, in my fitness, in my financial spending, so that way I can maximize that time outside. So that's kind of for me in a nutshell. Just trying to be outside.
That's crazy because, like, I love the outdoors, but mine was, if I was outside, I wasn't inside with my family.
I just
Like,
bring it with me.
It's a different type of,
Yeah.
it's like, it's a love of the outdoors because it provided me a way out, a way not to be around. Because I never got in trouble for being outside.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I grew up in the country, so it's like, as long as you're home, by the time the sun goes down, you're good.
Yeah.
So it's like outside all the time, swimming in canals, like, yeah. And it's just so crazy how, like, how different lives can be, and yet you still end up with like some of the same like passions. You just get
Yeah,
there
funny.
from different routes,
Yeah, and like I'm
you know?
hunting and fishing and you're not, right? But we can both go to Pincushion by
Yeah, I
Taylor
don't know if
Momsen.
I could kill him.
Yeah, see, maybe you couldn't, and I don't want to say no problem, but I wouldn't hesitate if I was like, oh, I'm gonna eat that sucker. Like that's not a problem to me. But we could both go to
Yeah,
Pincushion and just
I always
enjoy it.
feel like, yeah, I feel like I would be the guy that would like cry if he killed a deer, but I would definitely eat that deer. Like you
It's
would be on the plate,
yeah.
you know? But I might shed a tear. Like, I'm not gonna lie about it.
Oh, I get there's nothing wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with that. Just everybody's a little different, and we both would respect it, right? So like I've given you some game meat in the past, and I gave it to you because I knew that you would recognize like what went into that and the respect of the animal, and you would prepare it in a way that is like honoring that animal. And I've given meat to some other friends where they're like, "Oh, it wasn't that good," so I just like it was tough, so I threw it away. I'm like, I just I shot a deer so you could eat it, and now you're not gonna eat it. It just blows my mind. And again, just we can
Oh,
both appreciate it, but we came from totally different kind of backgrounds, right? So I think that's pretty cool.
yeah.
All right,
Obviously,
let's.
they're not on the list anymore. They're not
No,
getting
they're
any
not.
deer.
Well, the list is pretty short now. So the next question is,
Bro,
let's
that
talk
was
about.
good.
Yeah, you had
So,
elk jalapeno sticks, right?
it was, I think, yeah, it was ground elk, but it was like seasoned, or it had like jalapenos and I think something else in it. Delicious
Maybe
though.
cheese.
Mix it up with some
I think it
eggs.
was
Oh my god.
cheese. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's what it was. It
There you
was
go. That's what it was.
the
Yeah.
breakfast sausage blend. Yeah, that was so good.
Yes.
That's what it was.
100%. That was so delicious, dude. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know it's unreal. All right, so let's move on to how we met. What were we doing, and how did our friendship begin to grow? So I'll just tell this, and then just fill in any blanks that I'm missing. So the first time I actually met you was when John Pryor was doing that research study with the leg press machine. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dr. Pryor doing the leg power assessments for, back then it was going to be predicting the probability of a senior citizen experiencing a fall.
exactly. Yeah, which is not in his wheelhouse, but whatever. That's what he was doing. So yeah, that was
At all.
not at all. So that was the first time I met you, and it was pretty cool. You were someone that was just outgoing, and I remember you and me bonded then because you were like, "All right, what do you leg press?" And I was like, "I don't leg press." So you were like, "Okay, I need an idea because there's a very specific protocol." So I was like, "See that guy over there? I know I'm stronger than him." And you were like, "Perfect." And right then it was just like that little bit of man ego. Like I said it, and you were just like, "Done." I know exactly where he was. We're just gonna up it a little bit. And in that moment, I was like, "I like this guy. He's pretty cool." So that was the first time I met you, and then I think that was my junior year. And then I think later that year, I took, or maybe it was the same term, I took biomechanics. Um, and there was Friday labs, so 2 hour labs. And you and someone else will try to be not negative to other people on this podcast. You and someone else were teaching those labs, and that other person was not there for the first, like, was it the first month? I
Dude,
think it was the first
it
month.
was at least the first month, like
Yeah,
the first month of labs, which
yeah,
is actually more than the first month of classes,
that's right.
because
Yeah,
the labs start like week 2 or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But it
And
was
this,
like every Friday we had a engagement, like
well, yeah, and
like he had to go to. Yeah.
at first he was like out of the country. I think he was like on vacation in some like tropical place. Yeah, it was odd. So,
Yeah.
anyways, you were teaching your labs, which was, I think it's 20 to 30 people. You were teaching his lab. So you were teaching like 200 students a day. And
Yeah.
you were just loving it. And you just had this passion for it that I was like, well, I like this stuff too. And this guy's making it fun and approachable and understandable. So that was when I got to know you a little bit more. I was one of the higher students. So I got a little bit more attention from you because you would talk to me and I'd be like, "Oh yeah," and I would interject and add stuff, whereas some people just didn't really kind of understand. Does that ringing a bell?
It does. I mean, yeah, no, there's definitely favorites. I'm not going to sit here and say that I loved everybody. There's definitely students where you're like, oh, cool. Like, you actually like what we're doing, and you're just here for a seat. Got it. Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
finished that class with over 100%. To be fair, Drew Anderson was teaching it, and he did not make it too challenging. But yeah, so
No. He
it was the Wild West, that class. But I learned a lot. I learned a passion for that class, so that was cool.
he's he's like a tenured professor now at like
You know,
frick, man. I think University of Pennsylvania or something.
really,
Oh
he's
no, Oklahoma or Kentucky, wherever Dr. Anderson was from. Yeah,
oh, he's tenured there?
like
I
he
know he went
finished
there
his
for his
PhD.
PhD. That's cool.
Yeah, I think he's
He's probably
teaching there
tenured
now
track.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's tenured yet. It usually takes like
Tenure
5
track.
or 6
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, and
that's
you got
good
to
if he
get
turns
published
it
a few
around.
times. Yeah, and you got to cut your hair and actually like wear a suit every now and then, which he still doesn't. But hey,
I'm not going to.
you know, he's acting as though he's already tenured. You know, and sometimes you just got to act the part until it happens.
Fake it till you make it. I will say when I get my
So you
PhD,
make it
I'm not going to
big.
be the suit person. I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, it's Dr. Mengoni. I'll just be like, oh hey, it's Stefan. Like, I don't call you business owner Sean. I don't call my dad engineer Mark. Just like, oh hey dad, hey Sean. So
Yeah, except for the people who threw away the deer meat, then it's doctor.
then
Yeah,
it's Doctor. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, then it's
So then
doctor.
I also want to talk about how our friendship kind of grew because we'll just say I was I was a more liked student in your class, favorite or not, doesn't matter. But I actually didn't really start becoming more friends with you until our masters when we were taking statistics together. And we were the two
Yes.
like non-psychosocial people in that statistics class, remember? So of course we sat next to each
Yeah,
other. Um,
that was
and that was
Dr. Lewis,
yeah, Dr. Lewis's
Dr.
class.
Jackson. Yeah,
Dr. Lewis.
right. I always get
Dr.
their
K's
names
wife.
confused. Yeah,
Dr.
Dr.
K's
Lewis.
wife, Dr. Lewis.
Yeah,
Her
yeah.
dad's name is Jackson. That's why we get confused. Because there's Dr. Jackson, there's
Got
Catherine
it.
Jackson, and then Dr. Lewis's dog is named Jackson. It's like ridiculous.
There you
But yeah,
go.
we became friends in that class, studied together. And I remember the first time I told you that I hunted. I showed up to school, you'll probably remember this. I was wearing a flannel and it was camo. And you were like, hey man, I don't want to offend you, but are you like, do you, and you were like trying to be gentle with it because you didn't know me too well yet. You were like, I see the camo. Are you like outdoorsy? You seem like you're not really into that stuff. And I was like, yeah, I shot a deer like 3 days ago. You were like, what?
Yeah, yeah.
And then we started talking about you growing up on kind of the country and me growing up in the mountains. And then we studied some more and that's when we became more friends. But that was kind of funny because talk about like me flying under the radar. That's like my biggest care is outside of my wife is hunting. And nobody knew until I wore my
You know
camo.
what's funny is I'm pretty sure you helped me in statistics because
Okay.
I struggled in statistics. Yeah, no, because
I
I
didn't.
remember we were going over some. It was the library, and we were going over like the statistics homework and like how everything went, and I was just like completely lost. I also remember some. It was a random conversation we had. I think we were talking about like women or girlfriends, and I'll never forget it. You're like, well, maybe you should listen to me because like I kind of have a girlfriend, and I was like, oh, okay,
I don't remember that, but I'm sure I said that. I can be a little
yeah,
contradicting.
100%.
That's too funny.
Yeah,
So we became
he's
pretty good
talented.
buddies then. I saw you on campus. Just we talk every now and then. And then it wasn't until just recently, when did we start on Instagram kind of getting more involved and supporting each other? Probably like when I started doing my hunting stuff this fall, right? Because I think I was
Yeah,
in
the
Montana. I got
KinesioOutdoors
an
channel.
elk. Yeah. Yeah, I caught my salmon. That was a big one. and then I got my elk, and then you were just a big supporter, and I was like, Sean was always a nice guy. I should give back some love. And then you were doing these Q&As, and I was like, I gotta help this guy with his rep. So I'd ask you these questions that are like hot topics that I knew you would just crush. And then you just knock it out of the park, and I'm like, yes. So I was just like, here's a soft toss. To us, it's a soft toss. To normal people, they're like, oh,
Yeah.
carbs or fat, which one's a better diet? And you're just like, oh, technically, right? And you get into it, and just doing things like that. We pretty quickly, the past probably 4 or 5 months, really started messaging more and communicating and supporting each other, and here we are. Did I
Yeah.
leave anything out?
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in supporting people that are like-minded and are doing good things in the world. Like
Yeah.
100%. Like
Yeah, I'm
if
with
I
you.
ever support somebody, it's because they're a good dude. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
mean, it goes without saying that like I'm not the person who supports someone who's out there doing bad things to other people, which unfortunately we live in a world where it seems like those people can get a lot of support, people
Yeah.
just love negativity. So when I see
Yeah.
someone who's like genuinely passionate about what they do and they're not in it for any type of financial reward, there's no expectation of recognition or an accolade coming their way, they're just purely doing it because it makes them happy. Those are my people. I love those people.
Well, thanks. I appreciate you saying that, and I could say right back at you because in looking at your Instagram, your stories, and your new Instagram, yes, you have a product to sell, but you don't push your product ever. You might say like, "Oh, I have these
Yeah.
programs. Message me if you're curious about it." But you're living it. You're talking about how you're helping people, and you're offering advice, tips, and testimonials, and then you're talking about your product, and that'll lead us perfectly into our next question, which is, so let's talk about your product here, your air quotes product, because you do need to eat, right? You need to make a living. But again, the way you approach it is a way that is something that I can get behind. I don't like salesmen and women. I like people who they are passionate about helping somebody solve a problem. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's where you come into this. So you kind of talked about your business. So let's give us your name, the name of your business, and then who your clients are specifically. Because I'm going to preface this before I let you go with, if you're not somebody that has the mindset to respond appropriately to the way you put some things on your Instagram, like your stories, it's going to be a turn off. You are the type of person that's a little bit more in your face, a little bit more calling somebody out for that credibility, accountability. And the people that you're seeking are the people that respond to that, right? You're not always like, some of
Yeah.
your messages are not for the person who's like, I'm really shy and I would just like to try to, like, the softer spoken, more internal people. You're kind of targeting those people that are a little bit more proud, right? They're kind of proud, and that pride is getting in the way of their happiness, their success. So I just wanted to preface with that. Your clientele kind of emphasis is not always, now some people can fit in, but it's not always going to be the shy person in the gym who just is really lost and they just have no idea what to do. It seems like you're targeting the people that are, they kind of need to get over themselves and be humble and be internalizing some reflection so they can then grow. So again, we'll start with the name and then kind of what your focus is with what you do.
Yeah. So the name is kind of generic as of right now. Like on the business license, it's just Hatcher Fitness.
Oh, that's
The
great.
program that I'm heavily, no, yeah, right. Get the job done. Hatcher Fitness.
There you
Um,
go.
the program I'm pushing is called Unfucking Deniable,
Hmm.
and that's UNFKN Deniable. And
And that's
to
Sean's
be
Instagram,
honest, the
everybody.
reasoning,
That's your
yeah,
Instagram.
that
So
is the Instagram.
there's
So
that
there's
plug
two
right there.
Instagram accounts. There's Hatcher Sean,
Yeah.
which is my original one, and then there's the new one, Unfucking Deniable. And here that it's pretty simple, man. Like, I just want to help my clients and my people create the undeniable version of themselves, which is the best version. And then, quite frankly, we work through vices. We get these guys. I'm a big faith dude. I don't push my faith on people. I believe that the best way to share your faith is to live it. You know, don't talk about it, like, do it.
Yep.
And so a lot of people, I do have a good majority of guys who are either ex-military or first responder, and they definitely have a driven attitude, and they have a mindset that's very nice to work with, because
Definitely.
I put it on paper and it gets done.
That's right.
Which is not the general population, like, not at all. But we create the best version of yourself. We strip out all the vices. We focus on those things which you are good at. We build these guys up, and we take them, and then I tell them, hey, like, give this man to your family. Give the man back to the world, because that's what we need. We live in a world where we need better men, period. And
That's right.
dude, the reality is, if we just listen, and I tell the guys, like, if you can just listen to your conscience just a little bit for a few days, you're going to start feeling a hell of a lot better in life. And then if we get your nutrition dialed in, you're really going to be feeling good. And then once you start seeing some changes physically, that really helps guys. But then it's like, it's the mental changes, you know, the perspective changes from having nothing to realizing you have everything you need in this moment.
Exactly.
And I can definitely be a hard ass, and my guys love it. They like me to call them on their BS. They know that I'm going to check up on them. But at the same time, I have a group of single moms who are in the program, and my tone and the way I speak to them is completely night and day different than it is with the guys. I have a unique way of communicating with people, and I'm very good at empathizing and being sympathetic to situations because I've been through some things. So I have a really good feel of how people need to be talked to in that moment, because there's some times in life where tragedy strikes and you're going to get down and out. Like after my motorcycle accident, I was down and out. And it was actually a colonel in the Air Force who works with special operations who pulled me aside one day and was like, hey, like, you got to get the fuck up, bro. Like, you've been down and out too long. You have way too much to do. You're too important. And I was working with the ROTC cadets at the time, still do. And so he was seeing my impact on them. And he was like, hey, you got to get up. And so we all need that person to remind us, like, hey, you got knocked down. And for me, it was a fatality accident. So nobody was going to, his exact words were, nobody will tell you to get up.
Yep. You
were in a motorcycle accident and watched a guy die. Like, no one's going to tell you to get up. But I'm telling you right now, it's time to get up.
Yeah.
And so I bring that mentality with me to my guys, man. Because if you're a father, and obviously for previous in the podcast, man, like, I have some choice opinions about fathers, dude. Like, you're a provider, you're a protector.
I've seen your Instagram posts. Yeah. I'm aware of your opinion.
Oh, yeah. And I tell everyone, you don't have to be in the special forces to be a special forces father for your kid. Because every kid looks up to their father. You know what I mean? So it's like you have a unique opportunity to really, you know, shape someone and make sure they do well in life. Which, circle back why I asked the impact of your father, because you seem very well put together for your age. Like, I personally feel like at 43, like, I'm closer to you than, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like I live the life where I have the mentality of a 43-year-old because of my experiences. So longer answer than necessary, but
great.
we get rid of the pornography, the drugs, the alcohol, whatever the vices are, and we become our best version, and then we give that person to the world, man.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty powerful because fitness is one part of that, right? And that's what I like about you, and that's going to lead into this next kind of part, which is what sets you apart. Well, what sets you apart from the outside looking in is, yes, you focus on fitness, that's great, but you're more focused on the human, on the person, on the husband, wife, mom, son, father, whatever it is. and you're focusing on trying to fit all these pieces together, the fitness, the nutrition, if somebody's interested in faith, the motivation, just cultivating good people. And your foot in the door is, hey, I know a lot about fitness, right? But I also care about so much more than how much you can squat in 3 months. I care about who you are walking into the gym during your set. Are you like throwing your belts? Are you dropping the weights and the weights fly and hit somebody? Are you being, respectful? Are you being a good person? So to me, that's what sets you apart. Is that kind of what your goal is, or is that just something that's a byproduct of what you think, kind of some personal insight on you of what you think the world might need?
It's probably a combination of both.
Yeah.
Like things I see that my clients need, and then things that I've gone through that definitely give me an upper hand.
Mm-hmm.
I have a few clients going through divorces right now, and their kids are all the same age that my parents, and one of them is going through a nasty divorce. So it's like I've been able to work with him, and he literally told me the other day, he's like, Hatch, I lost my marriage, but my relationship with my 3 kids is better than it's ever been, and that's 100% because of you coming into my life. And that's what drives me, dude.
Yeah.
Is if I can just make one dude better, bro. Like if I can pull one guy out of the darkness, because there's a high rate of suicide for men in America,
Yeah.
and if I can put purpose to my pain that I went through, whether it was child abuse or the viral infection, almost dying like in a motorcycle accident, if I can give some purpose to that pain, and I can create, in essence, build a lighthouse so I can shine into the dark and
Yep.
help
Kind of
people get back to the shoreline,
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, dude. I tell the guys in my program, and this is going to be off topic a little bit, but the deeper and darker your trauma, the brighter and further your light will shine and be seen.
That's right.
And with men especially, we have 2 options. We can cultivate our trauma in such a way that it gives us strength, courage, power, resilience, knowledge, fortitude, all the things you need to go back into the dark and to pull someone else out of it.
Yeah.
Or the second option is you're consumed by that trauma, that darkness, which leads to vices, and eventually the vices will lead to your death. And unfortunately, for a lot of men, it's a physical death, not just a spiritual or emotional, but it's them checking out permanently. And it's crazy, dude, because like I have 2 women in my program. One lost her brother to suicide, and the other lost her boyfriend to suicide. While obviously the brother, they were brother sister, and then the other one, while they were still dating, he got in an argument and he killed himself later that night. And so, like, she's in a world of hurt that is undescribable.
I'm sure. I could never imagine.
Dude, I right? And, and I just tell her, man, I'm like, hey, like you have those 2 options, and just know that although our vessels are different, the water you're in is the same water I've been in for a very long time.
Exactly.
So I'm familiar with it, so I can provide some tidbits, man. And dude, there's just something like, it's like teaching, man. Like when they have that aha moment and they just, everything falls together and you're like, oh my God, I get it. Like when you see someone go from a very dark place and they start living in the light,
So rewarding.
I'll just start crying.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Dude, it's so rewarding. So yeah, that's a very long answer to the what do I do for a living.
I think that's great. I feel like I wanted.
If you need to lose weight, hey, I'll help you lose weight. If you want to be a better man, I can help you be a better man too.
Yeah. I think that's great.
Yeah.
And I like the way you answered it, because I have been fortunate to gain relationships with the people from different like walks of life, different career paths, and not everybody from our master's program is going to be on my podcast just because they have a master's degree and they're trainers. Like, no, the cream rises to the top, right? So there's a few people that I'm like, you stand out. There's something about you that's a little different that people can learn from you specifically because you're just a step above in one way or another. And that's why I wanted you on here, because you have experiences and you have an expertise that's very unique that I think people need to be aware of. And if they could use your help, then this is a way to help people, right? If this is the first podcast, there's going to be like 0 listeners. If one person listens and they find you, that is so gratifying for me. Just one, right?
And
So,
bro, that's the whole thing, dude. Like, I don't do it for monetary gain. Like, I'm struggling financially right now. Like, it would be awesome for my programs to blow up, right? But the truth is, dude, like, let's say they don't blow up. Let's say I never make it and I got to go flip burgers. Um, if a podcast like this, it's just like putting money in a mutual fund, right? Like, if I can make small deposits across the course of my life, and that helps one person, dude. If one person puts the gun down, that's a
yeah,
win.
that's right. That's right.
And I, dude, and I know my life's complete. And I get emotional because like I'm literally thinking of a guy right now who, our first phone call, like he told me, he found out his wife was cheating on him while he was deployed, with quote unquote the best friend, and he is a very highly trained operative.
Okay.
Like the guy can break into your house and kill you in the middle of the night type shit.
Yeah.
And he literally started the conversation with my friend the colonel, right? He's like, hey, Cuffs gave me your information, told me I should call you. But you should know this is where I'm at, and I have a bottle of Jack Daniels, and I have a gun.
Yep.
And so I'm pretty much going to shoot myself, right? But I figured I'd call you first. And then, fast forward 9 months, I'm on the phone with a guy, and we're just bullshitting about life. And I happen to say, man, I have no idea why I'm here on this earth. I'm still trying to figure it out, bro. So it's like we're both lost together. And he stops, and he's like, man, I know why you're here. And I'm like, yeah, why's that? He's like, God put you in my life to save it.
That's right. Yep.
And bro, I just like
Yeah, that's
broke
heavy.
down.
Yeah, I bet.
It was so heavy. I'm like on the phone crying my ass off with this dude who's like a freaking like legitimately special forces guy. And
Yeah.
I'm just over here like, man, that hits. And that's the thing, dude. Even if it's just him for the rest of my life, even if it's just one person, dude,
Yeah.
you never know the ripple effect you're gonna have.
Yeah. I think we're good. No, we're good.
I got it was counting down.
Oh,
Oh man, that's gonna mess up my train of thought, dude. But yeah, so hey, as long as we if we
Yeah.
just help one person, man,
yeah.
create one better man, one better family, one better father, one better son. My God, man. Like, hey, I don't know. It's like that Romans 5:3, like where are the men who rejoice in their suffering, who lean into what is hard? Because we don't have a lot of those. And those are the men who change the world. And I just want to change the world. Just one man at a time.
One
I'm
at
going
a
to
time.
hashtag it, cultivate your trauma too.
That might blow up. So I
I'm
can
like over
relate
here
that.
crying on the podcast.
Hey, that's real. That's what.
Yeah,
That's
we
what.
can't use the video anymore because now it's just me crying.
No, it's all right. It'll be great. So I can relate that to me because I have a similar mindset of if I can just have one, kind of the ripple effect. But for me, my Kinesio Outdoors, I don't care about the money. I'm really fortunate that when I finish my PhD, I'm gonna get a job. I'm gonna make enough money that I don't need to do other things on the side. But this is like a passion project of like, I like sharing information. I want to educate people. It makes me sad when there are certain members of my family I'll show pictures to of like, oh, I went backpacking. Here's some photos to look at. And they're like, oh, that's amazing. I wish I could do that. And I'm like, dude, you're 16. You could do that. And he's like, well, I don't know. 4 miles is pretty far to walk. And I'm thinking like, dude, it's 4 miles. You're 16. You've had one meniscus surgery. There's no reason you can't do this. So things like that where people just don't realize what they're missing out on just like the beauty of Mother Nature. And I think part of the missing out is they just don't have the education, the knowledge, rather, whatever you want to call it, to make that first step, right? The first step's the hardest. Well, for some people, they don't want to get into the gym. It's really intimidating. They see people like you deadlifting, what is it, 495 you do? Like, I'm not deadlifting 495,
like
but
550, but okay. Nobody's counting.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter. Well, I'm not, but I
Nobody's
also
counting, but 550.
yeah, exactly. But like I know that doesn't matter for what I want to do. So if that's what you want to do, that's awesome. But if you just want to enjoy being outside, you don't need to deadlift 550. You also don't need to be able to bench 315 or whatever it is. And I think that if I can educate people to enjoy outside, there are just so many benefits that I've had in my life from being outside. Like my wife and I bond from being outside. That's why we're together. We started dating, and our first group date was on her birthday, and we went to Sequoia National Park. And that's just like what we did the whole day. We just were outside, and it was amazing. So being outside, just for me, it's like spiritual. It's like eye-opening. It's calming. There's so many benefits for me. I would like other people to experience it. It's free. You just go outside and you just walk, and you can see so many amazing. You can see birds. You can see deer. You can see cows if you go somewhere like Pincushion where there's cows just roaming around. You can just see so many things. I've seen so many things, had so many positive, like calming experiences, and I want to encourage people to be able to do that. So for me, with this podcast, with my Instagram, I know so much. It's going to sound cocky, but I've been in college for 9 years. If I don't know a lot, I really suck. I know so much. I want to be able to help people just get outside. So I just want to help share little tidbits of, hey, you want to work up to hiking Half Dome in a day? That's awesome. You need to start small. You're going to have to pack water that day, so you need to be able to pack 20 pounds for water and snacks. So like just things like that where I know because I've done stuff like that, and I can now make it just a little bit more digestible and approachable so more people can enjoy those things. What sets me apart is I've been in college a long time. I can definitely lean on that. But also I've done a lot. I was a hunting guide for a month. I've gone fishing with one of my friends up here is a fishing guide. My dad made me remodel multiple aspects of houses for a lot of, like I've done so many things. I've shoveled more snow than I would ever want to brag about, split more firewood than I want to brag about, like just so many things I've done. And I'm only 20, am I 28 now? I think I'm 27. I'm only 27. Like, I want to share those things and getting back to you. And if it helps somebody, that's my whole goal. If it helps one person, then they share it. Now I've helped two people. Then that person shares it. And then you just get this, like, family tree of just sharing knowledge and people enjoying outside, which is an amazing resource that we're fortunate to have.